As the United States strives to reduce its reliance on Chinese rare earths, Australia has now joined the effort. Just a few days ago, Australia announced plans to establish a strategic reserve for critical minerals and is considering setting a minimum safeguard price for key resources like rare earths. To make this plan truly effective, the Australian government is even considering working together with the United States. In the eyes of many experts, Australia's move serves two purposes. First, to show alignment with the US, and second, to hedge against China's influence in the rare earth market. But what exactly is this $770 million plan? And can it really break China's dominance in the rare earth industry? If you like our video content, please click to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can receive all our latest video content. Now, let's get into today's topic. After the US repeatedly imposed additional tariffs to pressure China, China ultimately chose to retaliate by restricting rare earth exports. In April this year, China imposed export controls on 7 types of medium and heavy rare earth materials, an action that immediately caused concern among high-tech nations like the United States. After all, these materials are widely used in smartphones, computers, laser devices, supermagnets, and even in America's high-end weapon systems, which heavily depend on Chinese rare earths. But that was only the beginning of China's countermeasures. Just a few days ago, China issued a new announcement extending export approval requirements to overseas products and the semiconductor industry that contain Chinese rare earth elements. Under this new rule, all exports involving Chinese origin rare earths must receive case-by-case approval. This marks the first time China has applied long-arm jurisdiction in the rare earth sector, meaning that even if a chip is manufactured abroad, it will still face restrictions if it contains rare earth sourced from China. In response, some countries have tried to bypass Chinese oversight through gray channels, such as smuggling, illicit transportation, or using third-party countries as intermediaries to continue obtaining rare earth supplies. A few months ago, Beijing exposed one such gray industry chain in the rare earth trade. Some American buyers were found importing up to 3,800 tons of rare earth material from Thailand and Mexico through indirect routes to evade Chinese regulation. Aside from these unconventional operations, Western countries have also tried to apply for rare earth export licenses through official channels. But since April, among the hundreds of export license applications submitted by Western companies to China, only about 1/4 have been approved. China's explanation was also quite interesting. Western companies submitted their applications in Excel format, while China required them to use the domestic WPS format. This detail reflects a deeper intention. China hopes to establish its own system of rules, even in the smallest aspects. To get rid of dependence on China's rare earths, many countries have secretly launched various plans. For example, a few days ago, the Australian government began considering reaching a $770 million mineral resources cooperation agreement with the United States, trying to break China's restrictions on rare earths. So what exactly is this plan? According to what I've learned, as early as April this year, the Australian government had already intended to promote a $770 million critical mineral strategic reserve plan and plan to include the United States in the cooperation framework. The core of this plan is to establish a government-led strategic reserve system, and through cooperation with the United States and other allies, build a complete industrial chain, from mineral extraction and refining to magnet manufacturing. This plan is also seen as part of the de-Chinization strategy, aiming to reduce Western countries' dependence on China's rare earth processing and supply system, and to strengthen their own independence and control in high-end manufacturing and other fields. By September this year, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese even hoped to finalize this agreement before meeting with former US President Donald Trump. Once the plan is implemented, it will greatly enhance Australia's voice in the global critical minerals field. But in the eyes of the outside world, what truly prompted Australia to accelerate the implementation of this strategic reserve plan might be China's rare earth report, released on October 9th. In this report, China expanded the scope of rare earth export controls from the original 7 elements to 12, and for the first time clearly listed the defense industry and semiconductor industry as key areas of control. More importantly, any product containing Chinese rare earth components or using Chinese rare earth technology must obtain export approval. This is undoubtedly a precise blow to the United States and Australia, which are highly dependent on China and lack a complete downstream industrial chain. Of course, the reason Australia chose to cooperate with the United States is not just because of America's strong economy and technological power. In addition to the technical and cost challenges involved in developing a downstream rare earth industry chain, a more crucial factor is the ongoing friction between the United States and China over the past few years. Moreover, it is indeed unrealistic for Australia to single-handedly challenge the rare earth industry system that China has built over several decades. Therefore, by bringing the United States into the plan, Australia gained the confidence to push forward this $770 million mineral strategic reserve project. It is also worth mentioning that in September, China announced it would suspend iron ore purchases from Australia's BHP company. The reason was disagreements between the two sides over price negotiations and settlement currency. Previously, China's iron ore imports from Australia were mostly handled through individual enterprise orders, which led to price confusion and gave Australia absolute dominance in pricing. This time, however, China directly requested that settlements be made in renminbi, RMB. China's purpose in doing so was twofold. On one hand, to promote the internationalization of the renminbi, what we often call de-dollarization. On the other hand, to gain more control in iron ore trading through the change in settlement currency. As a result, many people speculate that Australia's eagerness to advance this rare earth strategic reserve plan may also be an attempt to regain leverage from China in negotiations over iron ore and other resources. But the problem is that China's dominance in rare earth processing has been established for decades, and many countries have already tried to build de-Chinaized rare earth supply chains. Yet, China remains the world's largest exporter of rare earths today. This shows that those alternative plans have not truly succeeded. So, does Australia's current $770 million plan really pose a threat to China? In fact, there have already been many plans aimed at reducing dependence on China's rare earths. For example, in March this year, Donald Trump proposed building metal refining facilities within U.S. Department of Defense bases to strengthen America's domestic rare earth processing capacity and thereby reduce reliance on China. By October, the United States went a step further, announcing an investment of up to $1 billion for the procurement of critical mineral resources, including cobalt, antimony, tantalum, and scandium. At the same time, the U.S. also planned to expand surveys on rare metals, such as rare earths, tungsten, bismuth, and indium to increase its strategic reserves and ensure that supplies for weapons systems and high-tech equipment would not be disrupted. In short, the goal was to offset China's dominance over these key resources. But in reality, America's domestic rare earth resources are scattered and of relatively low quality, coupled with poor mining conditions. Even if these resources were extracted and processed, the finished products would hardly meet the United States' current high standards, let alone challenge China's already monopolized position in the industry. In addition, as early as July 1st this year, the foreign ministers of the United States, India, Japan, and Australia announced at a meeting that they would jointly promote diversified cooperation on critical minerals and rare earth supply chains, once again aiming to counter China's rare earth monopoly. Although this alliance includes the US and Australia, it differs from the aforementioned reserve plan because Australia's project functions more as a resource reserve mechanism, whereas the Indo-Pacific Rare Earth Alliance focuses more on policy coordination. Its overall goal is to build a supply system for critical minerals that does not rely on China, supporting the development of high-end industries such as semiconductors, electric vehicles, defense, and AI computing. However, up to now, none of these measures have had any substantial impact on China. Not long ago, Donald Trump posted on social media, calling China's rare earth policy a terrible moment, while some U.S. officials publicly accused China's export controls of being economic coercion and strategic manipulation. Ironically, they seem to have forgotten that it was the United States itself that first triggered the tariff war. Of course, Australia's new rare earth plan is also unlikely to truly be effective. Although Australia's rare earth reserves account for about 6% of the global total, ranking fourth in the world, most of these resources are concentrated in Western Australia. Rare earth deposits in other regions are either of low quality or too limited in quantity to support large-scale development. Even in Western Australia, the cost of extraction is at least twice as high as in China. More importantly, rare earths are not ready to use once mined. Their processing is extremely complex, involving multiple stages such as separation, purification, and the removal of radioactive byproducts, each requiring highly advanced technology. From an industrial chain perspective, most high-end downstream applications of rare earths are dominated by East Asian countries. Economically speaking, rare earth projects generally face large investments, long timelines, and high uncertainty in returns. Even with government subsidies, it would still be difficult for the Australian government to attract sufficient capital into this sector. In comparison, China's position in the global rare earth supply chain is almost unshakable. China accounts for about 69% of the world's rare earth mineral production, and in the more complex downstream processing stages, its control exceeds 90%. More importantly, China has long established a complete, highly efficient, and cost-effective industrial chain, from mining, processing, and refining to end product manufacturing. This advantage cannot be compensated for in the short term through policy measures. It is the result of decades of accumulated technological progress and systematic development. Even if other countries and alliances advance their plans smoothly, it would still take at least 10 years to replicate China's current achievements. In my view, however, Australia's implementation of the Rare Earth Strategic Reserve is more of a geopolitical maneuver. On one hand, it serves as a gesture of goodwill toward the United States, signaling Australia's firm alignment within the United Front. On the other hand, it aims to use the ongoing restructuring of the global rare earth supply chain as an opportunity to gain greater influence and leverage for itself. But relying on a single country or even a small alliance to challenge China's dominant position in the rare earth sector within just a few years is almost impossible. In the future, the strategic importance of rare earths as key resources will only continue to grow, and the competition surrounding rare earths and other critical minerals is far from reaching its end. So, how do you view Australia's $770 million rare earth plan? To not miss out on our future projects and news updates, please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. We will continue to provide you with more exciting and interesting content.